Hello, Stevan. Nice to have you here today.
Thank you, Guy.
Thanks for making the time for share a couple of things with us. Stevan is the CEO of the Bernard Global, and a company he established about 5 years ago, and I think he's going to tell us a little bit more about it. I think, Stevan, you have a fantastic career, and maybe you can share a little bit of it to the people who watch this video.
Sure. About 5 years ago, exactly 5 years ago, after working for various companies around the world and doing a lot of interesting things, living overseas for 8 years of my life, I decided to launch Bernard Global. And the company is really providing advice and consultation on all types of risk around the world and risk mitigation, preparedness, investigations, strategy for various companies, including the FBI and the State Department, who I advise for. And then I do quite a bit of work today with academia as well, various universities, including Tel Aviv University. I was the keynote speaker at Cyber Week before COVID. So it's a variety of opportunities that I've actually been blessed in being able to develop several programs that I think benefit people in various ways around the world. 2 years ago, I actually, as you know, Guy, we coordinated and became an advisor for Cubic Consulting. And we'll talk more about that later. But in the business I have today, I don't limit myself to the types of businesses I consult for. If I know something, I'll do my best to help with it. If I don't, I'll say so. And I'll try to find, the right people to connect for that purpose. The other thing that I do is I do quite a bit of volunteer work in cybersecurity and advising people who have a need. I connect people that are perhaps transitioning out of government into private sector, or transforming a business, or transitioning to a new job. I advise on preparation of resume, how to interview, how to write a resume, how to find a job, how to build a network, which I want to talk with you more about, Guy. So those are some of the things that I do today, and it's been a very enjoyable journey so far. I didn't expect to be able to do something like that in my retirement years, but it's far from a retirement job.
I can see that. It's getting more and more, it seems to be. It's
It
not the
is,
other way
yeah,
around.
yeah.
Maybe you can, obviously we crossed each other for a couple of years at Sony, and I think also the period you were at Sony, there was a lot of things going on. Maybe you can
Yes.
share a little bit about that period.
So I joined Sony Pictures Entertainment shortly after 9/11, and I was hired as VP of security, global security. And over a period of about, 3 to 4 years, I was given additional responsibilities and promoted a couple of times. So the last several years that I was there, I was Executive Vice President of Global Protection Services. So the way to think about that is anything in the world, anywhere, anyone, whether it was content, information, people, brick and mortar, anything that needed protecting, I had the responsibility for. And Guy, as you know, I had a really strong team of individuals, and I had perhaps a unique approach to this, because I spent time with the CIO at Sony Pictures, and we agreed that in the best interest of the company, that the CISO function should be with the CSO function. So I took charge of that, and I had a great team in different parts of the world um, doing that role. I also established a investigations function, which was very much needed for a whole bunch of reasons. And we built computer forensic labs in Hong Kong, London, and LA. And I had people that were certified forensic experts, certified fraud examiners. We did a lot of work. We did all the e-discovery for legal. I had the EH&S responsibilities. I had medical services, fire life safety, sustainability, and just as I said, a myriad of responsibilities. All the production safety and production security around the world, event security for movie premieres and various junkets and what have you with media, promoting our products. That was what we covered.
Maybe Steven, to give context, it's most people will not be so familiar. What does it mean, security, or what is the things you have to be protected? If you look at Sony Pictures as a company, or it's basically a studio, it's a distribution. What does it mean versus maybe more generic security? I think there's quite a unique number. I always remember, that a movie is essentially creating a company and having all things done around that company for 2 years. And I also remember that you guys had it's a third-party business. So many third parties are involved in every movie. So maybe you can give a little bit of an insight of what did it mean running security in that kind of very unique environment.
Sony Pictures actually operated in 50 countries. We had 150 offices around the world. We traveled a lot because from the day I started there, what we had happen is this really significant transformation of the business from analog to digital. That made a difference in so many ways because it was more effective, I think, because we were able to move data and store data and analyze and audit and edit data much simpler terms. And then the way that we got it out to the cinemas in final version was, with a digital key. So it really changed the business. But you're right, Guy, when a film, whether it's a television product or a movie, is greenlit, meaning approved, then you build a crew. So the crew is the production crew, it's the talent, it's food services, it's lighting and grip. It's a family that comes together for oftentimes, depending on the size of the production, many months, and they travel. Because we filmed all over the world, and so the responsibility that we had was to provide reasonable assurance and safeguards that they could do so unencumbered and with minimal risk. And sometimes we filmed in places that were a little higher risk. So doing risk assessments, journey management, thinking about accommodations, about how they travel, about protecting the product, and many other things. Their general well-being. What if there's an earthquake or a typhoon or someone who's unhappy with us? All of that we had to be prepared to manage, and we did. And I think we were quite successful at it. And then when you've spent, and sometimes $200 million you've invested on one film, now you're going to take it around the world and you're going to market it. So you're going to do red carpet events in all the major cities. You're going to have screenings of the film. You're going to have the talent there with the media. And so the world's media is paying a great deal of attention to what you're doing. And it's how you create interest in the product and how you make your money. You know, a $200 million investment in certain films resulted in $1 billion in revenue. Others, not so well. It depended. Um, so, a very interesting business. And you're right, Guy. We couldn't possibly hire all those people and just leave them on the payroll waiting for the next production, because every production was different as well. And so when you finish one, there may be downtime for who knows how long until another one comes along that is appropriate for those people. So it's why most all of it is contracted work. But you know who to go to, and you know where the expertise is, and you build your family around that, and then you do your production. So, very interesting business model. It hasn't changed much today compared to where it was when I started there, and I think it's very effective. And there's certainly a lot more production today, and a lot more demand for product than ever before with streaming services.
Maybe, of course, during that time at Sony, we had a little bit of a problem with North Koreans at some point. And I think we'll come back on another video on that one, because that is a whole adventure which nobody expected at that time.
That's true.
Given
Yeah,
that we have a bit of limitation now, I'll skip that. And I'll tease only that
yeah, that's a
and,
story of survival.
yeah.
Worst case scenario, thinking about planning for something like that, um, and resilience, the term that
Absolutely.
we use a lot today, and is so important for business.
So I have two last questions for you. One is, you have a long and successful career behind you. What would you recommend to people in, let's say, peers or senior positions? What is it you learn? What's the wisdom you want to pass on, which you learned in this diverse and risky career, I should say?
Yeah.
What would you share with them?
Well, I'll share what I think has worked for me. Be a good listener. Be inquisitive. Be flexible. Just because you did it one way yesterday does not mean you do it that way tomorrow. You have to be adaptive, especially today. And we hear this term agile. That's another way of describing what I just said. But being nimble, and having your team be that way. And in leadership, I think it's if you've been given an opportunity to lead people, you have to also let them lead and let them develop and let them learn and create an environment, and an opportunity for them. And I think in leading, it's more in being a sounding board and someone who perhaps directs traffic, but not with red lights and green lights. More so with an amber light, if you will. That people don't make mistakes unless they're trying to do something, right? So if you just sit there and don't do anything, you're probably not going to make many mistakes. And the key there is, you don't punish people for making mistakes. If it's all done in good faith, we all make mistakes. Learn from it. Another one I think that has been really, really, for me, so important is over many, many years, I lived overseas, different parts of the world, traveled in 50 countries. It's your network. It's your friendships and associations that you've made along the way that you continue to nurture. You don't just, put a name in a phone book and leave it be. You strengthen, you sustain, you develop relationships. You connect with people because you care about people. You find out what they're doing. You learn new things, and along the way, they get to see and hear what you're doing. And maybe there are opportunities for connections. And so that's how it's worked for me. I've never gone begging for a job. I have never had to. People know me. They know what my capabilities are, and if there's a possibility that I can help someone navigate a problem or an issue, then that's what I like to do. But you also, as you get older, especially, give back. Think about that next generation and who are they and what interests them. For the first time ever in a decade, we have 5 generations of people working, right? So transnational, baby boomers, Gen Z, Gen Y, millennials, they're all in the workplace. And guess what? Each of them wants to be managed and led differently. And I think it's so important that we understand that, because that's how you're going to communicate, how you're going to optimize, how you're going to get work done, how you're going to retain and attract good people, is by recognizing what's important to them. It's not always what's important to you.
No, security has become it's become wider and wider, yeah, and deeper
Very
and
true.
deeper.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if I'm if I'm beginning where I'm thinking about going security or at the beginning of my career, it seems like it's impossible to come to know everything. Should I specialize? Should I build a general foundation first?
Good point.
Should
Right.
I understand? Should I learn also about the business, not only technical things? Or
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think what we have to do is become a generalist, not so much an expert in everything, because you can't. What you need to know who to call, where to go to get expertise. You need to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And I think that's the key to being successful. Is it's okay that you don't know it all. Um, in fact, it's better that you don't know it all. So I think that's where people are going to be successful going forward. It's worked for me. I've done oil and gas in different parts of the world. Um, I've done technology, working in tech, and I did a dozen years in law enforcement. I served in the military. I did a tour in Vietnam, and I grew up in London. And so I've had a wide variety of cultural experiences as well.
so
And
basically, broad foundation, but also look at types of companies, look at different countries, possibly, or cultures, as you say,
yeah,
to
absolutely. And
not.
everyone is a little different, and that's good. It makes life enjoyable. Um, but the other part of what I wanted in the message: be honest with yourself. Who are you? And there's a tool that I use, and Guy, I think you're familiar with it. It's called Strengths Finder, and you can go online and find it. You answer some questions, and it really profiles you. And it talks not about your negatives; it talks about your top 5 strengths. What is it that you're probably good at and you like to do? And those two terms go together. If I'm doing what I like to do, I'm probably good at it, right? And if I'm good at it, I'm successful. So I think knowing yourself, um, and we're all different, we all have limitations. That's good. Um, but you're going to be more successful in life if you do that. So there's a lot of tools out there that you can use for that purpose. But know yourself and let others know you.
Makes sense. I think especially the younger generation, it takes a little while before you can look back and say, okay, this I'm good and not good at. So I think building a little bit, being a bit more general, and increasing the number of experiences you have, company-wise, country-wise, culture-wise, will get you exposure. Exposure will get you a bit of feedback. Well, I like it, or I'm good at it, and so on, and not just the
Yeah,
one
that's
thing
right.
with
Yeah,
which I started.
yeah, I agree. The other thing I wanted to make sure I commented on um, is ethics. And it's so important today because really each of us um, has a brand and a reputation. So our companies have brands and reputation, but so do we. And it's how we're known. And if I ever waver and am unethical, people know that, and that word. So maybe they still like me. Maybe we still do things together, but do they really trust me? I think it's, always remember it's about you and your brand and your reputation. And what drives that are your values and your ethics. And if you don't know what they are, do a little homework.
Okay, Steven, I enjoyed most, we spent 20 minutes together. So thank you so much. And I think we already gave the pointers of future videos. We talked about the North Koreans. We talked about resilience. I know that we will probably also going to talk about the physical security in more detail, because I think that is still a very important topic, and then we need to review it. What does it mean in 2023, not many years ago? So looking forward to spend more time with you. So, and thanks very much for having shared these insights with the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guy. It's always good to reconnect with you.